Okay, we're here to talk about Murderbot, episode 3 on Apple TV Plus. This episode titled Risk Assessment, written by Paul Weitz and Chris Weitz and directed by Toa Fraser. The Preservation Society prepares to head to Delpfall as they have not been able to reach that facility. Mensa asks Murderbot to lower its helmet so it can appear to be as part of the team, although Murderbot is not sure it wants to be part of their team. On the way there, Murderbot gets in some more soap opera time, which is his favorite thing, and is not too pleased when he has to interact with the humans or be engaged with their conversations and activities. When the crew learns that Murderbot is reading their logs, Mensa looks into whether it is trying to harm the team or not. Upon landing, Murderbot takes those with weapons training to the base. It goes inside alone, however, telling the team to leave in 10 minutes if they don't hear from it, and finds a destroyed sec unit as well as an entire team that's been murdered. One of the sec units is playing dead and then attacks Murderbot. Murderbot is able to disable and destroy that sec unit, but the episode ends with another being of some kind, maybe the one that caused all of this, shooting at Murderbot. This episode checks in at a very tight 22 minutes, reminds me
Yeah.
of our old, network TV sitcom days. So we getting enough story or sort of plot development here for for what we need, not just in what's actually happening in this story, but how I think they're building out Murderbot to be this conflicted character of what he wants versus what he's getting when he's got this freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it works and I enjoy it as a TV show. And just as a viewer of the TV show, I have no problem with the 22-minute runtime. Um, Turning around then and trying to, flesh out a recap article and do a podcast.
Yeah,
Well, that feels a little bit tougher. Is there enough to work with on that front? But that's a weird
right.
kind of complaint most people probably wouldn't have. Um, and I think there is, I'm just wondering. I guess my biggest worry, Ryan, moving forward is like, are we going to keep talking about the same things? Are we going to manage to move forward enough on the, I don't know, more philosophical type side of things?
Yeah.
But I think so because I think the show is funny and we got some good action in this episode. Um, but it does also seem to, I think it's moving that forward, at least to some degree. This, the kind of question of, does Murderbot have emotions and
Mhm.
feelings? Is Murderbot a person? Where the one of the most humorous things to me is how Murderbot itself is like, no, I'm not a person. I was like, who the hell
Yeah.
said I was a part of the team?
Right. I want absolutely now that I've got more of a taste of what you are and what you're like, I want absolutely nothing to do with this being part of a human team. It does, to your point, seem like they're trying to, I mean, they have to explore a plot and where they're going and what's the conflict that's coming up, right? Who caused this thing that they ran into this week and what's going to happen there, but also trying to, as much as possible in the same short episodes, explore the journey Murderbot is on while trying to come to grips with the fact that, oh, well, maybe what I thought that I wanted is not all that that it's cracked up to be. It seems like there's a, a lot to do, and they're not, at least in this episode, didn't give much time to either one.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because we had already seen that all these people were dead last week. They gave us the
Right.
cut to show us that they were all dead. Um, so of course, then we want to know what happened. And Murderbot is curious also about what happened, even
Hmm.
though shouldn't be, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I am enjoying the inner monologue, voiceover stuff. I think it's a source of a lot of the humor. It's
Yes.
definitely necessary. My understanding is that the books are um, from Murderbot's perspective, and they're like the Murderbot diaries,
Yes, that's
even.
correct. Yeah.
So you have to have that. But the little commentary of, I should turn around and go back, but for some reason I'm not going to,
Right. I
Um,
will say I was maybe on the fence last week about this as sort of deciding, is this narration, is this monologue, inner monologue, what is it? I found that to be, I think, the best part of this episode. And so kind of fully back on board with this. Yeah, the understanding what Murderbot is going through, what it's thinking and what its reaction is to what it's seeing from its new circumstances, I thought was the best part of this episode.
yeah, probably my favorite one in this episode was when He goes, "You're welcome. Can I go back to my show now?"
Yeah.
But not actually saying that out loud.
Yes, yes.
Um, those interactions again, I continue to feel like this is almost the worst group of people it could possibly be employed by, because the guy wants him to get into the circle as they're clasping hands. It's like
Right,
absolutely not,
right.
absolutely. But on that front of whether Murderbot has emotions, one of the things I did get thinking about is, well, clearly, if we're categorizing things like annoyance and disgust as emotions,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, right?
Yes.
Um, we get a quick line in here that indicates something about how they make the sec units that seems to indicate, okay, there's a biological element. This is potentially quite disturbing, right? That they're
Yeah.
What exactly are they doing? Is this like a RoboCop situation, or is this like a lab grown human flesh to make cyborgs kind of situation? I'm curious to learn more about that.
Yeah, I did find that interesting. They just barely touched on this, but yeah, this idea that it's lab grown human tissue combined with some sort of mechanical or robotic thing that they put together to make a sentient being of sorts. I do hope that that is a little bit explored. There's another thing where, well, I don't know, do we have time to go back and tell these kinds of stories or look back at these kinds of things and also sort of push this forward? But I think that'll be interesting to see how sec units, aka Murderbot, has gotten to this point, which allowed him to sort of understand who he is and who he's trying to become.
Right. When we still have the question of what happened in the past in terms of those flashback memories,
Yes,
which we don't
yes.
really revisit here. Just to clarify, if I was too uh, whatever to people listening. And so when I said a RoboCop situation, what I mean is if people recall or people
Yeah.
don't recall and they haven't seen the original RoboCop, that that was like they took a human being who was going to die and
Yes,
made him into RoboCop, right?
yes. Correct, correct.
So that would be what I was wondering about there. Is it like that? Is there a past of the sec
Yes.
units having been human beings who perhaps were going to die and then made into robots? Or I kind of don't think it's going to be that. I think it is going to be more of a like lab grown human
Yeah.
flesh to put in the machine. But
That that I would say is my impression as well. Maybe conveniently, we have not seen any other. I don't think we've seen any other sec unit with its helmet up, so we don't know. Do they all look the same, right? When they come out of the factory, are they all identical? That would be an interesting thing to say. If we see different faces here, was that just a product of sort of the organic material that they're growing in the lab, or is that just as you said, a RoboCop situation where we sort of now combine people into this machine unit?
yeah, also a question as to why.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, why? I mean, in other words, why not fully Android or whatever? Although I suppose even without them telling us more, I might speculate that it's maybe they can't do that, right? Maybe they
Yeah.
can't make
Yeah.
a fully mechanical being who would be relevantly self-conscious and all of
Yes.
that, right? Maybe they can't actually fully create that kind of artificial intelligence, so you need to um, use the biological material to sort of have a cyborg type robot. I guess
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking.
Have we been told anything? I'm trying to think to last week. Told anything about sort of time setting of this, where we are in time, or even if is this, our reality or our universe? I don't know that we have any sort of setting in that regard. Or is this an advanced future of the human race, or sort of where we are in time?
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten any indications, and I don't know if we will.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm tempted from what we've seen to suggest that this is probably, excuse me, I'm tempted to suggest this is probably more like yeah, it's just an alternate universe kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
situation as opposed to something that would tie into what we know about human history in like
Right.
any way, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I
Yeah.
guess I'm thinking that in particular because of that brief exchange last week about alien technology or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because they were referring to that in a way that made it sound like that was in the distant past,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know. Um, so I'm hoping to learn more about that, but it's hard for me to see it ultimately connecting up with humanity as we know it on Earth in the 21st
Yeah,
century. I mean, maybe, but it's almost like
yeah,
why?
yeah, yeah,
Because you have to say what they're like. Oh, it's year 5534 or something.
yeah.
Like so. I think they might just not address that personally, but I could be wrong.
Let's see what else we have here in terms of topics. We got more soap operas in this one. He had commentary about those soap operas. I found a little meta narrative there, kind of interesting that he's, critiquing these shows he's watching, talking about plausible and non-plausible plots and which ones are more interesting than others. And it's yeah, you consume that much content, you're going to clearly have ideas about all of these things.
Yeah, I enjoyed the moment in particular when basically, assessing the scene and saying, okay, well, these two sec units must have killed each other at exactly the same time or something, and
Yeah,
this line in the narration about it reminded me of a plot from Strife of the Galaxy,
yeah,
but that is an inferior show with implausible plot lines.
exactly.
Um, so yeah, like okay, so that's not the case. But what is the case? And we should talk about that a little bit more because it would seem Murderbot lands on the inference that someone has taken control of the sec unit and
Yes.
made it kill everyone, including the other sec units. Briefly wonders who. And then this other figure appears, and it's not clear really whether it is a robot, cyborg, human being in a tech suit,
Yeah.
whatever, definitely looks like a bit of a badass. So if that's the person that took control of the second unit, one of the questions I was wondering in my recap article on tvobsessive.com is why not just kill everyone yourself if you're that much of a badass? Like, why are
Yeah.
you? So I don't know. Any thoughts or speculation about what might be going on
Yeah.
here?
I mean, clearly this is the question that they're setting up the cliffhanger for the next episode is to what is this being or this entity that has manipulated or caused this carnage here on the other facility, and we're purposely left in the dark as to whether or not it's as a person or it is some other advanced sec unit or something. I think that well, this is just a theory, a prediction. What might be introduced is that this is either this might be some advanced version. We've heard about how this version of Murderbot is a more out of date, refurbished model of what used to be. So this is sort of an up to date version controlled by someone that um, I want to say. Could they have given these new versions of the sec units the ability to sort of act within their own freedoms or remove or not remove the governor module that we see taken out from or we see Murderbot removed in the first episode. I believe it's something that's being controlled. I don't necessarily know that it's a human. It's sort of a pitting a advanced version of the sec unit against a free-willed version of an older one and sort of what that competition looks like.
Yeah, so that bit I thought was cool, where it seems like almost because Murderbot has free will,
Yeah.
Murderbot's able to beat the more advanced unit, right?
Right.
Because Murderbot knows what that unit's going to do, knows what it's
Yes.
how it's programmed to fight.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, I did think that was cool. When it comes to, I mean, really the question I posed and you were taking a stab at, I don't know if we have enough information to work with, really.
Yeah.
If to
Exactly.
speculate about who's behind this and why, I mean, who do we even know about? We know about the company or corporation or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, but why would they be coming to kill these people?
Yeah.
No idea really.
That's
So
maybe the most confusing thing is we know so little about where these people come from, what they're doing, what the corporation is, what their actual objective is on these facilities that they're at. It's just, yeah, what is it that they're trying to accomplish, and why would there be something or someone sent to destroy that? Which I have no, I think, clear idea of that yet.
yeah, so um, I don't know if this is true, but I'll pull in someone on the YouTube comments said something like that. I think they're pulling from the books, which again, I haven't read the books, and I promise no book spoilers, but I
Yeah.
don't actually know if this is true. So is it a spoiler or not? I don't know. Or are we supposed to already know this or not? But if you recall, Ryan, we were wondering like, what is this Preservation Alliance even doing on this planet?
Exactly.
Um, and the commenter said that they are like surveying the planet because they're thinking about buying the planet.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
So I don't think that's a huge spoiler, but if that's right, also like, is the show ever going to explicitly fill that in for us? But I'm bringing it in now because in terms of speculating of why someone would want to be killing them or something like that, well, then maybe that'd be something to work with in terms of thinking about someone being motivated to keep that planet from being sold or purchased by these people or whatever, and then like maybe that relates to whatever was going on in the crater and
Yeah.
that thought about alien tech or putting all just trying to piece together some vague sense of why someone might be motivated to kill these people.
Yeah, there has to be some overarching force or motivation for both of these sides, right? It's not just I don't think we're just attacking to attack. So yeah, there has to be something that's motivating both sides, which again, hopefully at some point, which I'm sure it will lead back to, does this at all relate to what we're seeing in these flashbacks, some kind of massacre that Murderbot is seeing?
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm definitely invested, interested. Um, I don't know if the episode length is going to vary, but
Yeah.
apparently we should be prepared for potentially 22 minutes a week. The first two were also similarly like, half an
Sure.
hour or
Yes.
26 minutes or
And I
something.
think you can look that up already. Yes. Okay. So if you go to your Apple TV Plus page, your dashboard, and pull up Murderbot, the coming soon episode 4, Escape Velocity Protocol, is 22 minutes long.
Okay,
So there you go.
that's fine. I mean,
Yeah, that's fine.
no problem with it. Anything else you want to hit on this one before we wrap up here?
I think that's good. I think we have let's see, there are 10 episodes in this season, so we've got 7 more to go still.
Cool. All right. So we'll be back next week talking about Murderbot. Thanks as always for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, please do leave a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Really appreciate it. Check out tvobsessive.com. I am personally writing weekly recap articles on Murderbot. If you're interested in reading things, you can find those there, as well as written work on any number of other TV shows. I encourage you to, poke around the website and so on. You can follow TV Obsessive on social media. Search for TV Obsessive. You should find us. And we'll be back next week.
All right, looking forward to it. See you next week for episode 4.